Readers?
Here.
Elkhauser?
Here.
Spears?
Here.
Teeling?
Here.
Quorum is established.
Do we have any amendments to tonight's agenda? With no presentation, do we have any citizen comments on items that are on the agenda this evening? Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Milczewski?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Readers?
Aye.
Elkhauser?
Aye.
Cook?
Aye.
Teeling?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular city council meetings for January 14th, 2014 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Comments, questions, corrections on the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on, bills for payment were $186,744.76. Moving on to mayor's report. First one is petition for disconnection of the Hoover property. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance disconnecting certain territory from the boundaries of the United City of Yorkville, Hoover Forest Reserve, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved. Second.
Comments, questions on this? Roll call, please.
Spears?
Nay.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Elkhauser?
Aye.
Milczewski?
Nay.
Teeling?
Aye.
Cook?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Readers?
Aye.
Okay, next I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Amber Rasmussen as Freedom of Information Officer.
So moved.
Comments or questions on Amber as a FOIA officer? Roll call, please.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Elkhauser?
Aye.
Milczewski?
Aye.
Teeling?
Aye.
Cook?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Readers?
Aye.
Aye.
Spears? Motion passes.
Next is an update on the build permit program. There's no official action tonight, right? Just discussion and recommendation?
Correct. Now, really, there are a couple policy options that we're seeking direction on. First, and I think most imminent, is the Windham Ridge subdivision. As you recall, we recently approved an annexation agreement amendment to reduce the impact fees in the subdivision. And so with the Ryland homes coming in, they've gotten a lot of interest, got a couple buyers on the line, and are ready to pull permits. They've expressed interest in participating in the build program. The issue with that development is the total fees on those homes are about $2,700 after everything that's already been paid. So the question, which really applies to the rest of the build program too, is do we want to formalize we'll call it the waterfall of fees, build program impacts, and then if so, what the order is. And I think the recommendation that we made at the committee level was really not to go beyond whatever the permit fee is. So $2,700 would actually be rebating $5,000 to the builder. But then we would formalize the list. And I think the final question with this issue is whether we want to include other governmental entities within that rebate. So we're within our legal rights to do so. We've not taken it up with other governmental entities. But it is something that's at our within our abilities.
Yes, ma'am.
What, when all the other build permits that we've had, that just comes out of, because the fees are high enough?
Yeah.
On what particular fee, what was it that we were taking it out of?
Well, the two main ones were water connection fees and sewer connection fees.
Right.
And in most cases, those two fees alone are more than $5,000.
Right.
So for most of the other subdivisions in town, the water connection fee is going to be $3,100 or $3,700. The sewer connection fee is going to be $2,000. It's just in Windette Ridge, they prepaid a lot of fees, they negotiated in some way, so their permit fees are only $2,700.
Well, I feel that we should only be rebating what we can based on our fees, and not the library or the other fees. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, let's tackle that question first. Anyone feel different from that? I mean, I agree with Diane. I don't think we should be rebating any more than the fees they generate.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, I don't think we should rate any fees anymore. I mean, as you guys know, I voted against the bill program several times, I guess, the 2 times it came up. I mean, especially now with water fees and sewer fees and things like that, in light of, future applications that this council is going to have, that we're even talking about possibly in the next couple of fiscal years, raising water fees, raising sewer fees. I think the bill program, even though I voted against it, maybe served its purpose for that small gap in there to kind of get construction going. But we can't have this program perpetually into the future. On one hand, we're saying we're going to refund these fees to the people that are hooking up. And on the other hand, later on, we'll be discussing, let's raise sewer fees. It's not fair to the people who are here. It's not fair to the people who have lived here, live here, long-term residents. I think it's time to stop the bill program. I think Yorkville has a lot to offer. I think we've done a good job of attracting businesses, attracting amenities, and there's more to come. And I think that's what's going to bring people to Yorkville. We've got our financial ship in order, which we didn't have several years ago. Those are the things people look for when they move into a community. Long-term sustainability. Not one time I'm going to get a check that I'm going to use to go to Disney World or buy furniture or pay off a credit card that I'm never going to see again. So with all due respect to the bill program, I think it served its purpose, but I think it's time to move on.
I guess, why don't we tackle that question first and see if we're going to renew it, because it has to come up for renewal in March. So let's tackle that, because if the majority of the council feels we don't want to renew this bill program, and all the other questions are moved. Yes, sir.
I fully support it. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they're very, very successful. And if you look at the surveys of the individuals that have used it, very influential in getting people to come to Yorkville. If I had more confidence that our recession is fully over, I might agree with what Alderman Colosso was saying, but I think we still need something to draw people to this town until we get to that point where we get those numbers where they belong. So I'm fully in support of continuing this for at least 1 more year.
And I'm in agreement with Larry, just for the record. We've built up a lot of momentum over the last 2.5, 3 years, and the key is keep that momentum moving. We don't need anything that's going to halt that momentum right now. Yes, sir.
The thing I would also like to know about this decision, what impact does this have for some of the new things we've done, like the state with that Ridge and Rather Homes? They come in there, were there things promised to them at all, or do they deserve a year to benefit from it, or?
Well, I think the second question is more of a policy discussion for the city council. The first question, they were promised it. I think they knew when they were negotiating impact fees downwards, fees were going to be very low already. So theoretically, their business model hopefully should have been successful. Their existing permit fees. It's just, from the standpoint of attracting interest from competing communities, I know that Pulte has been very successful with saying, don't go buy in Montgomery, buy over here in Yorkville. So I'm sure that Ryland would be looking to do the same.
Yes, sir.
I think it is a good program still. Not just necessarily for the hard times that we've been through, even though things are coming around, it's still not great. It's a tool that's being used for Yorkville to market itself in cooperation with the developers. It's good for us, it's good for our developers, it's good for building, it's good for the long term of the community, having more rooftops to sustain the infrastructure needs that we have, the fees that we have online. Granted, yes, they are more of a burden, but in the long term, they are a revenue stream to the community, which is going help to offset some of the fees we have right now. So I do wholeheartedly support that.
Jackie, and the bill program, yea or nay?
I think I'd like to do it another year.
So I do, Joe.
Agreed.
So it's 4 and 10.
I would do the year.
All right, so we will extend the bill program. I think we all feel that we shouldn't go above the fees that subdivision generates. I think we're all in agreement. Do we want to hit the other taxing bodies up or no? Okay. What other questions are there?
That's really it. I mean, that provides us with the direction to lay out the priority. We can even bring that back if we want to formalize it, but we can answer Windette Ridge's question, and then we can figure out how to budget Broad and Creek going forward, because they're kind of in between.
Now, you had a question about the priority of,
Yeah.
did you put anything in the package as far as recommendation?
We did not. What I'll do is I'll bring that back and give the city council. I think generally it's fairly logical which way it should go. Parks Land Cash should be last, probably right below water meter cost, and then everything else is just impact fees and permit fees. So, but we'll formalize that, maybe even amend the policy to include it. That way, there's no question from the staff level.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Under the original program, the developer was required to put up $5,000. Would the developer be required to match the new dollar amount or still be required to do the $5,000?
Good question.
That was a good question.
Well, actually, the way the ordinance is written, it says the city can put up to 5,000 and the contribution from the developer can be up to a match.
So it's a match. Okay, thank you.
How many permits do we issue for the bill program? Is it 35?
47.
47? Okay. So there's a cap on that, too?
No, there's no cap right now.
That's just how many we did last year.
Oh, okay. The first year we had a cap, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe I heard this morning on the radio that I think Sugar Grove did 24, and they thought that was super, so kind of goes to our program.
Yeah, I went to 24 when they had a 5 the year before, so it was a big jump for them. What's our population?
16,921.
So they're the same size as us. Okay.
Oh, I thought he used the Sugar Grove, I'm sorry, that's Yorkville.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is Sugar Grove as big as us, or?
No.
They're only about 9,000.
9,000, okay. Anything else on the bill program? All righty. Next is road, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Chairman.
PW 2014-06, Road Governor Rose, 5-year plan update.
Okay. So this came out of Public Works Committee. The committee did unanimously recommend we go with the scaled back fiscal year 15 Road Better Roads program, which is listed out in the memo. That's the more immediate need, at least from a staff level. It will be formally adopted as part of the budget approval over the next couple of months. But really, in order to get the water and sewer utility engineering completed, we'll need to bring engineering agreements to City Council here in the next month or two. So that is the first question, as to whether we want to proceed with the Public Works Committee's recommendation. The second is a bit more long-term. It does not have to be decided tonight. It would be part of our 5-year budget plan. We could get into the discussion of it within the 5-year budget proposal. And that's what we want to do long-term. This is probably going to be the main component of the City Council budget presentations for me, is showing what is not discretionary in the water and sewer funds, what can be adjusted upwards and downwards, what's variable, what's fixed, and then what everything else is. And, the everything else is the Road to Better Roads program. So, to the extent that we participate in the Road to Better Roads program, there's almost a direct correlation with having to raise or lower water rates and sewer rates. So that's the long-term discussion. I get a little bit into that in the narrative memo. It's kind of showing, if we were to do what we had proposed last year in 2014, we'd be looking at a 40% water rate increase in order to fund $2.1 million in total programs. So we didn't think that that was acceptable. That's why we came up with the lower dollar amount, which still has a corresponding water rate increase. So those are the two questions on the table, fiscal year 15 and then the beyond part. And really we're seeking your direction on both.
Just a question here. On the scaled back program, is there a way to fund this without raising rates or fees?
I don't think so. Most of our expense in the water and sewer fund is going to be related to debt. We have a lot of debt, it's fixed. We really can't refinance it just given the terms of the bonds at this point. We have a lot of capital projects coming down the road that aren't related to road to better roads. We talked about in the water fund, you've got $1 million water main relocation for Route 71 coming in fiscal year 15, 16, 17, and 18, depending on when we start the engineering. And the discretionary expenses, office supplies, contractual services, you can adjust those up and down by a small variable, but because there's so many of them, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to have an appreciable impact on the overall budget without, either cutting out whole things or, not doing something. But even in water and sewer, you can't cut out chemicals to treat the water. You can't cut out electricity. Those are your large costs. So the answer is no. There's not really much else you can do.
Let me follow up on that. In your memo, you mentioned you expect to spend about $1 million per year in total infrastructure improvements. Is that based on the new fee, the Road to Better Roads fee, or where did you come up with that number?
Is that
That's in your January 15th memo.
okay? That's in the first whole paragraph in the background section on that first page. That referenced the benchmark we set last year when we approved the fiscal year. So at the time, we were only really looking at pavement improvements. And so when we did the original pavement study, we said we need to spend about $2 million pavement only in order to keep our existing road score throughout the city. And at the time, we said, well, we didn't think that was able to be funded with our general fund, essentially, pavement is coming through. So we said, let's lower that to $1 million. That was going to be our benchmark each year. And we split that between MFT, there was some patching in MFTs, full patch, hot patch, regular patch. And then the rest of it just came out of citywide capital. And so we said, between those two funds, we want to get to about $1 million in total improvements.
Because the pared back program that we're looking at is only a little bit over $1 million things. $1.153 million.
Correct.
So we're only talking a little bit more than that $1 million benchmark that you put in your memo here.
Correct.
I guess where I'm going with this is when we instituted the Better Roads program, I was fully supportive. But I tell you what, from a standpoint of getting input from our residents, I got more calls and emails on instituting that fee, and they were negative for the most part, that I'm very reluctant to raise fees or add new fees. I'd rather work with what we have if at all possible. And that's why when I saw the $1 million number, I said, we're not that far off. If there's any way to make this work.
So the other option besides raising fees is going to bond?
If you're looking to fund the projects, yes. So the other thing too to remember is the 1.153 is actually split between water, sewer, and regular pavement costs in the general fund. So that's why water and sewer rates are impacted by this proposal, because we talked about it a little bit in the past. But basically, you're looking at your water and sewer funds as standalone silent funds. So you're not supposed to be throwing money in there from the general fund in order to approve these things. So last year we were saying we can afford $1 million only in the general fund, so it had no impact on water rates. And now this year we're saying well, we're going to be opening up this roadway, we need to fix the water lines below it. And so, you're looking at that and saying, the water fund needs to come up with a way to pay for this because it's an enterprise fund. So that's, again, the change in methodology there this year means that water rates are impacted theoretically.
Ken?
Yeah, I had some concerns at the last public works meeting. I like the study, I like to identify the roads. Unlike Larry, I'm very reluctant, like Carl said earlier, about raising fees. It seems like every year we're doing it now. We added a fee, there was one fee that was supposed to go up. I don't know, the problem really with the long term though is there's some big projects coming that there's no way that we can fill a bucket to pay out the dollars that's going to be needed. So I think we have a funding issue with the funding this thing. The other thing would be possibly a bond for a referendum to see if the people really want this their roads fixed, because that will tell us where they're at, and it will also allow them the tax advantages. Right now they can't deduct their water fees, so that will give them that avenue. It's just a thought. I don't have a big answer for this, but this was definitely some concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't have a big answer for this either. We discussed it a long time in Public Works, and I guess when we instituted this fee and we didn't have, because I remember asking about, is this just pavement? And knowing we had all these other things, we should have figured out what it was going to take before we instituted a fee. And now we have some money, but we don't have enough. And now we're asked to put another fee on it, and I'm not really wanting to do that either.
I think, the way the options are laid out in the memo are, the old traditional, let's bond something and, we'll pay per year and we know what our fixed cost is every year, and, kind of what we have now with our bonds, some of those monster bonds that we have that we're dealing with, and we're stuck with them whether we like it or not. Personally, I don't want to do that to a council sitting here 10 years from now, because we're complaining about it, and I don't want to do that to a council 10 years from now so they can complain about it. We got to stop it. I like the pay-as-you-grow idea because I think it's more fiscally responsible. We'll do what we can do with the monies we have. I do think Yorkville's on an uptick. I think we're going up. I think we're improving. A lot of the estimates or projections that were put into the memos and the numbers are dependent on Yorkville improving. So instead of borrowing the money, assuming we're going to improve, I would rather not borrow the money, see the improvement, and then generate the revenues from those improvements and then pay as we go. I think that's a more responsible way in the short term from year to year to look at the road. So as far as increasing fees, I'm not going to vote to increase any fees. We just added this additional fee last year to help us with the roads. And I say we adjust our projects to the amount of monies that we have, not adjust the monies to the projects that we want. And take it like that for the next 2-3 years. And if our conditions improve, our revenues go up, our property taxes are looking good, and everything's coming in, and we still keep budgeting conservatively, growing our general fund, then over time, naturally, the money will be there without having to borrow, without having to pay the interest, without having to do all those things. I think it's a given conclusion that Game Farm Road is going to be done. And, that's been talked about, that's been planned for, and we understand that. That's a bond that Game Farm Road has to be done, and we understand that. But knowing that we have that coming up, I don't want to keep stacking on top of that, considering we already have whole bonds that we have to deal with. So I would support pay-as-you-go, prioritize the roads within our budget, what we do have with the current fees. Try that for a few years, and I would not support any raising of any of the fees.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. We have enough long-term debt right now, we can't saddle ourselves with more long-term debt. You chip away at it, do what we can do. The one thing that has been talked about, we can lower our water bills by $76 a billing period with the stroke of a pen.
I'm glad you brought that up. In reading this, as far as the sanitation district, I am leaning much more towards we are no longer going to bill for them when that comes up. They have to bill for themselves. People have to know that when that goes up, I get the phone calls. And I had nothing to do with it. We're just the middleman who bills for the sanitation district. They get none of the calls, we get all of the calls and complaints, and they sit there and raise the fees whenever they want. Personally, when we can get out of that habit of billing for them, have them bill themselves, and when there's a raise in their fees, the people can start calling them. They'll see, and the people can see truly what the city is billing compared to the sanitation district. I know we did it as a courtesy, but now it's getting to the point where we're the ones getting the heat for the rising costs. So thank you for reminding me that.
Yes.
I would just like to say that I suggested that about 4 years ago, and I was told that we get money in to do that, they pay us to do that, and so it's worth it. But honestly, I always thought, wouldn't it be better, because then if we had to raise our rates, if we absolutely had to, at least it would probably be less than what that fee looks like on the bill. And you're, granted, they're going to get that bill in the mail separately from the sanitary district. But I have always thought that we should be billing for them because it is such an aggravation and such a frustration for people because they think it's our bill. They think it's us. And it's not. So yeah, 4 years ago, I think I suggested that. But I understand that there's money coming in because of it, and how much is it? Like $30,000?
$130,000.
It's $130,000 a year. So we're going to lose that.
But we're also going to lose, we're not going to have to deal with that headache though. I mean, you have to realize.
Yeah, and that was what I was told, and that's, I mean, you kind of got to weigh it, but I did address that, and it was a money thing. It was, we get paid for doing that.
Okay, I think we have clear direction on road better roads, right? I mean, do what we can with the money we have, and really not looking at raising any water or sewer fees at this point. And I think the debate over YBSD fees is something that we should take to admin or public works committee and hash it out some more. Maybe put together something about the pros and cons, and let's discuss that a little bit more.
May I add something?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. With the schedule that's in front of me, for fiscal year 2017, we have West Kendall. In 2018, we have several other streets in Countryside. And I believe that these streets should be on at least 2016. If the council would consider that, because there's many problems with the water mains out here, and they're very old, and the roads also need to be repaired.
I brought that up at Public Works as well, that our roads in Countryside are a mess. There are water main breaks, I don't know, every other week, maybe once a month, maybe at the very minimum. And it's just going to be more and more problems, more and more. There was one Sunday, and I agree with you, Rose, I brought this up at Public Works.
Look at what happened.
And I'm glad you did, Diane. I think that's great. But I would like the committee once again to reconsider.
Well, the only, and I don't have a problem, I realize it needs done, but do I believe that's one that can't even be funded in the 1 year or 2 year, right, Bart? Let everybody know that?
Just to give everybody an idea of what kind of better roads program you're looking at, if you do not raise rates for next year, you're probably picking one road, if that. So, because we accelerated Cannonball into fiscal year 15, because we accelerated Kennedy Road also into fiscal year 15, the majority of our road funding, or our capital funding, are going to those two projects. And again, for good causes, we're getting a grant on one of them, and then we're getting developer contributions on the other. But the incremental revenue from this is going to offset the Better Roads program in those funds. So you might be able to do some pavement-only projects of which there are a couple, I think that we had identified in either one of those two charts that don't have utilities below them, but you're looking at a couple blocks, maybe a mile on one of them. Are there any? No? Okay. So, that, and we can bring all that back and say, this is the financial impact. Just to give you an idea too, is even with the proposed increases in sewer and water, the long-term budget direction of both water and sewer is to run deficits each year and bring down the fund balance. In sewer, it's a little bit easier to understand because we have a 100% fund balance in sewer. So we're looking at reducing those by doing a lot of projects and then offsetting it with a small rate increase each year. With water, you're generally about where you should be with fund balance. And so, even with doing projects, having an offsetting water rate increase, we were proposing for fiscal year 15 to be a couple $100,000 in deficit. So that's something I think maybe we need to see, all within a budget document in order to make the most appropriate final decision. But with your direction here tonight, we'll definitely recraft it so that we can show what it does.
Well, I was just going to say, as far as, I think that's the reason we did the road study, is that we prioritize roads, because I'm sure every alderman sitting here has their special roads and their special wards that they want to do first. And just because some of the roads that pop up first happen to be in my ward, hey, I guess my argument that our roads in Ward 1 are probably some of the worst are true, but obviously we prioritize based on that study, and I know my friends in Ward 3 have nothing to worry about with their nice fancy roads up there in Ward 3, but for us out in Ward 1, I think we should go off the road study and just go in priority order based on that's what we paid for the study, because otherwise we can all sit here and argue about our roads and our wards all night, so.
Yes, sir.
Basically, we can bond to do the roads all day, do what we need to do, pay for it off the tax rolls. We can address the issue that way. We know we have infrastructure, we have road issues, the roads can be dealt with are general fund, but the underground, if we don't increase the rates to account for that based on the enterprise funds, we don't have a way of funding and maintaining the obligations we have. The comment that go out for a referendum and ask them if they want to repair the roads, that is a comment that I can't support because it's our obligation to provide a service and repair and keep the services that the city needs functional. Right now, we're not doing that. We have roads that are in terrible condition in certain places. That's what our road study did. The analysis of our infrastructure for water and sewer show that we have deficits within the city that need to be done. The monies that we have allocated and that we have coming in from the fees are not going to sustain what we have in terms of maintenance and the obligations that we have to provide to the residents. I don't want to raise the fees on them, but by this discussion and the report, we're going to have to do that in order to maintain the system we have unless we are satisfied with having a defunct system within the city of Yorkville. And I don't think any of us want to deal with that kind of system. So we can either bond, pay for it that way, or we can raise the rates, and we have to do something because we do have failing systems. Roads are failing, we have water main breaks, we do have to address it one way or the other. I'm not of the mind to bond at all, but the rates do need to be looked at. I think that's our biggest issue is what is going to be acceptable to the residents. Is 40% acceptable? But we need to do something, and I think rates are going to be the issue, unfortunately, that we have to tackle to address the problems we have.
Well, if you don't, you have to wonder about the long-term viability of these funds. When's the last time water rates were increased? Eric,
We did set in place a graduated increase for the past 5 years. It was, I think, 3.5% when we did it 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been 1.5% each year. So there has been a scheduled rate increase just to meet inflationary factors. Sewer has not been touched since 1998.
And prior to that, I believe it was 12 years. And we did a more increase.
think you're in the minority here, Chris.
I'll accept that. No one wants to pay the bills, but we gotta do it. We gotta pony up and deal with the problems we're having. The only way to do that is to find a way to pay for it and not dealing with the roads, because we have more roads that are deteriorating, more sewers and water systems that are deteriorating than what we can repair. That's a given. And that's what this study shows. We have to somehow face it and suck it up and deal with the negative impacts that we're gonna take, but we gotta do it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yes, sir.
I think the important thing to remember is that the one thing that everyone sees, that everyone seems to complain about the most, myself included, that's kind of the reason I'm sitting here, is that I'm sick of driving on these roads. So the idea of doing, just East and West Kendall, having a road to a better road for 1 year, and then putting off the smaller projects, I understand we have to raise rates on the things that we haven't touched in a long time. But I think the most important thing is to keep moving with it, because we instilled a program, or it's a 5-year program, we look at it every year to kind of reassess. We have to improve constantly, because the roads that I'm driving every day are ruining my truck. And not to sell me, but I'm kind of sick of investing in my maintenance of my vehicle just because I'm living in Yorkville. So whatever we have to do, I'm of the mind that I don't care if the rates go up $100 a month. I don't care. I want the roads fixed. So I don't want to go to bond, because that's putting it on for somebody else to have to deal with. I understand game farm, but if it's $30 a month per person, what would that do? I mean, if there's a way to kind of go, okay, here are options, $5, $10, $50, $20, what does that get me? The faster the better. But I have no problem investing in the city that I'm going to be living in for a while, because as it stands right now, I'm sick of driving on the potholes and the pot marks. And I understand the sewer, but it almost seems like, okay, we have a road to better roads, and the sewer, yes, the sewers and the water, we have to fix those. Fix as many roads as we can, and do 1 or 2 of the main infrastructure improvements per year, if possible. But at the same time, just keep knocking out the top coat, because that's what we're complaining about. Not that I'm not complaining about water mains, that makes perfect sense. If it's impacting somebody's property, we have to get on that. But seriously, take $50, just fix the roads. So I would like a way to kind of explain to the people that I talk to the most in Yorkville, in my word, okay, if we go up $5 a month, this is what we can improve upon. If we go up 15, this is what we can expect. We already have in front of us what we can do with 1.13 million. We know what we can do with 2.16. Well, what does that mean for my bill? I can look at big numbers all day, but I still have to look at my budget at home, and that's the most important number for me personally. So if I can explain it and understand it and be behind it, 30, 40, $50, I want to drive on some of those. That's plain and simple. So we're going to have to raise rates. Do it. It's going to happen. Just fix the roads. So that's kind of where I'm sitting.
I'm going to go back to my original statement where I said that we raised the rates and it wasn't enough. And it would have been better if we knew what we were going to need to do these things before we raised the rates, because then we could have had it done all at one time. And that's why I'm upset about it, is because we didn't raise it enough. And we do need to. I agree with Chris. I don't want to have to raise it again because we just raised it. It's not as if we haven't raised it now. Well, why? Because you just raised it, do you have to raise it again? If we could have done it all at once, it would have been a lot easier pill to swallow, and now we have to do it again and go through that whole thing again. I am still in agreement with Carla that we should get rid of the YDSD on our water bill, because even if we collected $8 extra a month, that would cover what we're losing from that. I mean, and then that can go directly towards a road. So it's just because I don't know what are we doing with that $130,000 in funds, and it just goes into our general fund.
Split between the water and sewer funds, actually.
So I mean, we would have to, make up at least that amount that we're losing by not doing that, for sure. But it would still be substantially lower, and I understand they're still going to get a bill from the YDSD for that amount, but then that is their problem to deal with, the phone calls. So, I mean, that we could even rate it, it wouldn't be as hard, but I'm just upset that we didn't wait before we raised it to find out what we needed with the infrastructure. And I would just like to add on the Kendall Drive, the water goes into people's yards, it floods the streets. It's not, there's a water main that's broken. Plus, how much does that cost every time that happens to repair that?
It really depends. It's thousands of dollars by the time.
Right, so every time, and just in the last, I would say, year, I've seen at least 3 or 4.
Well, is it possible to continue with the road to better roads as it is, fixing aesthetics pretty much, fixing the top coat, making it drivable, making it look pleasant, and then add fees to that bill without the YBSD probably, but to add fees and say this is just for East Kendall and West Kendall, and to itemize it like that, so that we know that, okay, for the next 3 years to pay for East and West Kendall, our rates are going up $10, $20, $15, whatever it is.
We'll blame the countryside people.
Of course.
Call the countryside.
That's what I came here for.
Take Yorktown 18, for example, what you're saying just put down a surface on top of it?
Well, not things that we have to work underneath, but I'm saying the things that are just aesthetic.
But a lot of the ones that are in the study are ones that have significant
Right.
work.
The improvements underneath.
Here's the problem with that. If you have a road that needs to be fixed, but the infrastructure underneath needs to be fixed, you go ahead and just pave the road. Next thing you know, you're gonna end up tearing the whole thing out to fix what you should have fixed to begin with. So that doesn't work.
So we kind of have two categories. We have the ones that don't need the improvements underneath it, and we have the ones that do. Granted, we have a lot more of the one category than the other. Okay, so 2015, get the other ones capped. Capping is important. That will kind of put off those other improvements down the road a little bit. Then we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of these huge projects. The East-West Kendall needs to be addressed sooner than later. But it's also, we have a road to better roads. It's plural. Get stuff done, move it out, get it done, and then tackle those larger ones, because that's when the rate increases probably have to come, because we have infrastructure, not just the road, it's everything involved with it.
Just a quick clarification, I did state the YBSD fees go to the water and sewer, that was incorrect, it goes into the general fund, actually.
I just want to remind this council that under the current fee structure, we are getting roads done. And look at what we did last year. That was a vast improvement over what we've done in previous years. And even the scaled back proposal, we're still getting work done here. I'm just saying, let's live within our means here. Let's not, anybody can govern by raising fees and taxes. I think the people put us here to say, look, fees are high enough. Let's see what we can do. And let's be creative here. I mean, is there any grant money out there? Is there any other funding mechanisms that we can be looking at?
Every grant program that offers for roadway improvements we've applied for or received. The LAFO resurfacing grant we're doing Pickleball Trail with, that was a grant. For Game Park Road, we've got about $2.3 million in stimulus money coming from a few years ago. As far as actual federal and state grants go for roadway, that's about it. You can get included in a capital program occasionally for local roads, but usually it gets trickled down through the feds to the state, and then through Kendall County, Kane Kendall Council of Mayors, and that's where we get our $300,000 or $400,000 every other, couple of years for a resurfacing project.
So it sounds like two different projects. We have Road to Better Roads, which is just roads. And then we have Pipe to Better Pipes, whatever you want to call it. Which then we have to bring back to Road to Better Roads. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's more of a fact that we had a plan going this way, then we found out, well, we have to do some other improvements underneath before we finish the top. Well, that kind of moves into a different category, so I don't think that we can really honestly lump them together. We are going to have to go back and raise rates eventually to get some of these things. Less.
Just want to add one more point to this. Right now, our residents are paying $32 every 2 months. And that's broken down $8 for water, $8 for sewer, and $16 for road. I don't have a problem if we shuffle those numbers around as long as they don't exceed the 32. If you're saying this year we need more money for, say, sewer, I don't have a problem raising that as long as we lower something else so that it still equals 32 or less. So, to me, that's one way of looking at it.
Well, Larry makes a good point. I mean, we have a lot of needs out there, but we have done a lot more than the city's done in previous years. And one thing that people forget about too is, look at Route 47. And granted, it's a state project, but it still costs us millions of dollars, So,
Just one thing. The other thing we got to remember is, the decisions we make today don't have to be permanent. If we keep going down the path we're going, and our general fund grows and things are going well, we can always take. That's why I like the pay as you go. I mean, the bonding is the easy way out. We just borrow a bunch of money, do the work, and then we just pay the credit card every month or every year, and we pay with the interest. But I mean, if we're like Larry said, we have done projects. within our budget. I think your idea of shuffling some of the money around is excellent. If our water fund is so full that we have to start spending it down because it's 100% funded, then let's reduce the water fee by $3 and raise the sewer fee by $3. Everybody's still paying $32. I mean, that's an excellent idea. I mean, that's something we should look into. But let's look at it and be real careful what you do and be vigilant about it. Let's look at what we can do next year, see how that goes, and start projecting out 2016. And if we have to change course, we can change course. But let's not do anything rash. Let's not make, people can only pay so much. I mean, and I know it's not our fault. We're a small percentage of the tax bill, but at the end of the day, these people have to pay their tax bill, and we're the second or third highest tax county in the state. We're like 27th in the country out of 3,000 counties. We got to stop somewhere. We have to stop somewhere. And I understand we have to make improvements and we have to repair what we have. But let's just take it piecemeal. Let's look at it 1 year at a time and do the best we can do. We went from doing nothing to the roads to we've made progress in the last 2 years. Let's keep building on that. We don't have to high jump up here. Let's just keep progressing up. So I think pay as you go, and let's just keep an eye on the budget. Larry, that's an excellent idea. I think that's something we can look into.
Okay, anything else on this topic? Do you have enough direction? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. No further questions.
You're good?
Good.
Okay then. Good conversation. No, we have no economic development committee report, no public safety, admin, we have a couple items on there. Rose, do you want me to read these motions for you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to authorize the city administrator and finance director to approve the lowest bid and to execute contracts to secure the provision of electricity from the lowest bidder as presented by NIMAC for a 1 year or 3 year period. Such authority effective only for the current NIMAC bid cycle ending April 2014.
Second.
So she made the motion.
Yes.
Okay, Carlos, second. Questions or comments on this? Roll call.
Coe,
Aye.
Cott,
Aye.
Frieders,
Aye.
Spears,
Aye.
Pelosino,
Aye.
Montalto,
Aye.
Wilczewski, Teeling.
Aye.
Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution approving a commercial card agreement with the First National Bank of Omaha, authorized officials who may issue credit cards and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
Second.
Comments or questions on this one? Roll call, please.
Cott,
Aye.
Frieders,
Aye.
Spears,
Aye.
Pelosino,
Aye.
Montalto,
Aye.
Wilczewski,
Aye.
Teeling,
Aye.
Coe.
Aye.
Anything from Park Board? Or Planning Commission, anything? No ZBA report, no city council report, city clerk's report, planning community and liaison report. Yes, sir.
I have one update on the Aurora Area Convention Visitors Bureau. Over the past couple months, you know that there's been some discussion back and forth, some changes. There was a resolution brought to the CVB. It was approved by the CVB board. Tonight, the city of Aurora did approve an agreement. Basically what it does is it's a couple-year term. They're going to fund $175,000 into the CVB. Originally, they were funding $430,000 plus the grant money. Their contribution, all said and done, was probably about $630,000. Now it will be about $325,000 with their grant funds. That takes the overall budget from $845,000 down to $460,000. Significant change in the CVB. The budget is going to be amended here in the next month with it, but the scope and the services of the CVB will change. Aurora's still in, but at a significantly reduced rate, and there are some slight changes to the executive board to provide that Aurora some representation on the executive committee as well. So there's some changes coming, but it is still functional, viable, but at a significantly reduced scope.
Now, aside from the funding reduction, I know they wanted 2.50% of the board members.
The structure's changed a little from what they wanted. It's a 25-person board. They're asking for the appointment of 10 board members. There are already 10 that the mayor of Aurora has signed off on. They represent entities of Aurora within the communities that he's acceptable with, so there are going to be no board changes other than filling the seat that's vacant from the former alderman that was on the board from Aurora. So there'll be one new appointment. The only change structurally is we will have a change on the executive committee to have one representative by choice of the Aurora mayor on the executive committee. It's an 8-person executive committee, 3 of which will be on there, and then of the executive board, there's 4 of them. There's going to be 1 that's a direct appointee of the mayor. So those are the changes. Nothing that structurally changes. The board, the CVB board, decided not to change the bylaws, which was something that the city of Aurora asked for. I recommended not to do that. That was our governing ordinance, and should it be changed to accommodate terms of the contract. So they went with it without changing the bylaws. So the contract is 2 years, $175,000, and basically they want to have input on 10 of the board members.
And he wanted approval of the executive director too, right?
Yes, the mayor of Aurora will be directly involved with the hiring, the search and hiring of a new executive director for the board.
But he has final approval?
He has say the final approval. The final approval will be done by the executive committee of and the board of the CVB. If the CVB does not go with somebody that the Aurora mayor is happy with, Aurora will terminate the contract. That's within it. If they're not satisfied with the person put into that position, they will terminate the contract.
That's political talk, where he has final approval.
Yeah. So it's pretty clear, but he will be involved with this. Right now, the acting director is the administrative assistant, the executive assistant that is there. She's heading it up. We had to appoint her so that we would still retain the right to have the state grant money provided to the ECPB. But the search has not begun yet for an executive director, nor has the analysis of the CVB been done. RFPs are out to solicit, by February 14th, they're due back to analyze the CVB to come up with a plan, a direction, what's going to be the best method for the CVB to continue. So those RFPs will be due on the 14th of February. Once that's done, they'll review them, select somebody to come in and analyze the organization. Once that's done, then the search for a new director will begin.
Are they still going to call it the Aurora Area Convention, or just going to be Aurora Convention?
There's no change to the name.
Cool. Any comments or questions on this? You don't mind any questions, do you?
No.
I mean, obviously, we signed a 3-year contract, so.
Correct. It basically takes Aurora to the end of the term that everybody else is at.
And my question, I went to a meeting with Chris, the last meeting before this one, and my question was, if Aurora can cap their contribution, are you going to let other municipalities cap theirs? Now, we give them all of our hotel tax money, and what if we wanted to cap it at $25,000?
Well, the way Aurora's is done is it is still contributing the same percentage, which is 90%. All the communities
With a cap, though.
That's the difference, is they do give a cap. The original discussion was they wanted to only contribute equal amount of all the other communities, which would have been about $105,000.
Right.
That number has obviously since gone up to $175,000, but that's the number they will commit. But they felt that since they were already committing 70% of the total budget, that they should have a little greater say. So they brought that down. They're still contributing more than 50% of the total funding, but they wanted to do some other things with their monies and make sure that they were getting value out of it.
So we'd like to keep this around on it.
Yeah.
Now, we'll still give them 90%, but we'll cap it at $25,000.
that discussion could be had, has not come up from any of the other communities in there, but
Yeah. Well,
I don't
It's a question for another day. Well, no, and you're right, it's a question for another day. I just remind the alderman to just put that feather in your cap when we talk about this again. Everything we feared or thought about when we were hesitant to enter into this contract has come to fruition. And that's something for the city to think about in the future. Once again, and I'm not blaming Aurora for in any way, shape, or form. They got the best deal for their people that they could, so good for them. But we got to worry about Yorkville, and I don't think this arrangement is working. So that's my opinion.
So Alderman Cope, maybe something you want to talk about one of these days at Economic Development Committee.
When does our contract expire?
In 2 years and 11 months or so. It's a while.
Do we have something written that we could get out early if we wanted to?
we have 2 more years as of this past December. And then after that, there are 2 more years that we can extend. We're still within our initial 3 years of the contract.
So yeah, we have 2 more years, a solid 2 years.
Well, that's not good.
Okey-doke, any other community and liaison reports? Any staff reports?
Just one, our salt supply, we're at about 700 tons, for those that inquired. We were featured prominently on the Chicago Tribune website newspaper today in the article about salt shortages, but only because our photo was used. So we had a Yorkville plow truck in there, even though we didn't have a salt shortage. They didn't mention our name there. But we do, at each run that we do with the snow plow, about 100 tons. So we've got 7 or 8 snow events, and we'll scale back to the extent that we can. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at and what the Kendall County storage dome has saved us. We've bought in between $40 and $50 a ton the past couple years when the salt supply has been very high everywhere. And Oswego just went out to bid for an emergency supply, and they were able to secure, I think, $110 or $120 a ton. So, yeah, well, it's a commodity, but we can look at that.
No, we talked about salt.
So, just for whatever it's worth, in case anybody inquires, it shouldn't impact our operations here in the next little bit. And I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, it's so cold the salt doesn't work very well anyway. So we've been not using as much as we normally would under a normal snow event.
But buying into that storage facility was a wise idea.
I think it just paid for itself.
Paid for itself this year, yeah.
Is that the one on 8847?
South town on 47.
Anything else on staff reports? Any additional business? Hearing none, we will adjourn to executive session for litigation and employment. After executive session, some amendments and no further action.